This is the new LUMIX S9, a camera that, I've got to admit, I didn't see coming. Let's just dive straight into what it can do, what's new, and I'll share some sample images, some sample videos, and we'll talk through those, and you guys can let me know what you think of it, because I still haven't quite made my mind up. It weighs 403 grams, which is about 250 grams lighter than the S5 II. That extra weight would leave some space in your bag for something like a DJI Mavic Mini or an additional lens if you're trying to have a compact setup. Actually, this camera is so small you can slip it into a jacket pocket very easily without it leaving too much of an imprint. It would probably even fit in your trouser pockets if they're not too tight. And of course, as a smaller camera, there are also some sacrifices when it comes to inputs. So we now have a mini HDMI input instead of a full-size HDMI input, which we have on some of the other higher end products from LUMIX. We also lose the headphone jack. So there is a microphone input, but you can't monitor your audio straight from the camera without an adapter. We also only have one SD card slot, which isn't really a surprise again in such a small camera body, and that lives in the same compartment as the battery. So it's a really neat setup. In terms of size comparisons, I think you could compare it more to something like LUMIX GX8 or even the Fujifilm X100 series. It's a very similar size to those cameras, body only. But let's not forget, even though it's compact, this is still a full frame sensor. It's a 24.2 megapixel sensor. Looks like the same one that was in the S5 II. So you've got great image quality guaranteed right out of the gate. You don't have to worry about losing image quality here. This is a camera that's designed to go everywhere you go, to wear around your neck all day long. I've been wearing it for about 5 days straight, and it doesn't trouble me whatsoever. As I've mentioned, I do like the compact nature of this camera, but it does benefit from this little thing, which is an additional grip that's been created by Small Rig, and it makes the camera a little bit easier to hold, especially if you're like me and you're going to put slightly larger lenses on it. This thing comes in clutch for giving you a little bit more grip on the camera. But given the size constraints of this camera, obviously there is no fan and very limited heat dissipation, so there are some sacrifices when it comes to video modes. We don't get unlimited recording as we have in the S5 II and S5 IIX and even the GH6. So for some people that may be slightly off-putting, but this camera isn't really designed for long form recording. It's designed primarily to help you capture stunning content on a really simple device that you can then share straight to your phone, and then from your phone straight to social media. So the whole point of the S9 really is about social sharing, and for creators who want a significant step up in terms of quality for their videos and their stills from what they're getting from their smartphone. If that is a challenge that you're trying to solve, the S9 is definitely a camera designed with you in mind. As you'd expect, it has a 3-inch flip out screen which can be rotated all the way forward so you can monitor yourself if you're recording to camera or holding it up doing a vlog style recording. Now, another area where the S9 shines is in terms of autofocusing. For such a small camera, they've managed to make sure there's no compromise in terms of the PDAF system that they've developed for the S5 II and S5 IIX, and also more recently for the G9 Mark II. Autofocusing and subject recognition is still sharp, super quick. It can detect cars, it can detect bikes, animals, eyes, faces, you name it. It's an amazing system for such a small camera. One thing that I was surprised about, given the compact size of the LUMIX S9, was the fact that this camera still has in-body image stabilization, which when paired with a LUMIX lens with optical image stabilization built into that as well, can deliver up to 6.5 stops of stabilization while walking or while shooting handheld. Now I will be doing a more thorough, more in-depth review of the LUMIX S9 when I've had more time to live with it, and when we've got the final version, or at least a release version of the LUMIX LAB app, because of course this camera is pre-production, so I haven't had a full look at what this camera is going to be capable when it's available for you guys to buy later this summer. Now, there are some things in the S9 that we haven't seen before from LUMIX. So now we have a dedicated LUT button on the back of the camera, which will allow you to access a range of LUTs that are stored in your camera. Now, this is going to be one of the features that I think LUMIX are really counting on with the LUMIX S9, because as we've seen on social media, a lot of people love to create their own looks and filters. And now with the LUMIX S9 and the newly launched LUMIX LAB app, people can create, edit and share their own LUTs all within the LUMIX LAB app. Another thing that we're seeing for the first time is the creation of the MP4 Lite video recording format. So one of the main things, as I mentioned before, the LUMIX S9 has been designed for creators to capture content and get it onto their devices as quickly as possible so that they can share it to social media. As many of you will have experienced when you're out and about creating video content, it can be quite a process from when you shoot it to getting it back to your editing software on your computer and then exporting that and getting that onto social media. Sometimes I find that as a creator a bit of a barrier to me shooting some video content that maybe I wasn't doing for work, but I was just doing it for the fun of it. Typically in that kind of a situation where I'm concerned that it's going to be a lot of effort to edit afterwards, I'll just shoot that stuff on my phone, which obviously is much less quality to what I could get out of a product like the S9. So they've created the MP4 Lite recording format to make it much easier to do that. So you record MP4 Lite within the camera, which is a 10-bit recording format with 420 color, and you can show that directly to your phone, fresh and ready to be edited however you want in your device. And that, I think, is going to be a really huge benefit for a lot of creators who want to get high quality video content with very few barriers. Alongside the launch of the LUMIX S9, there are two new lenses as well, which are more on the compact side of things, which I'm sure many of you can imagine makes sense with the release of a compact sized camera. So we have a 26mm f8. I personally would have loved to have seen an f2.8, or even if they were able to, an f2. And also it's worth mentioning that it isn't an auto-focusing lens. So this lens is only manual focus, and at f8 you're going to get a lot more things in focus. So it means not having to think too hard about what you're capturing. You just press record and most things will be in focus because you're shooting at f8 anyway. Now, I've just come back from a little shopping trip here in Tokyo because I was curious to see if I could find a way to solve a little problem that I've had with the S9 in the fact that it doesn't have a viewfinder, as you can see. Well, we can solve that with something like this. This is an optical viewfinder, and it's a 28mm because it closely matches the field of view of the 26mm Pancake lens and also the 28-200, which I've been using out here. It just slips into the cold shoe of the camera like that. And this one's actually nice and secure. And then I've got a viewfinder. And like I said, it matches the field of view of the lens. So it won't help with focusing, obviously, but just in terms of the experience of using the camera, this definitely improves it for me. And I would share the brand with you guys, but it doesn't actually have a brand. This is a non-branded one, but they come made by all sorts of manufacturers. So if you want to find something like this, look for a cold shoe optical viewfinder, and I'm sure you'll be able to pick something up online or in a camera store near you. Before we jump back into the video, let's have a look at this as well. This is one of the lenses I've been using here, as well as the Pancake and the 28-200. This is the 65T 1.5 from IBIS. It's an amazing cine lens, and I've really been enjoying using it. And some of the sample footage that you guys are seeing in this video was shot on this. I'm also using the Photodiox PL to L mount adapter with ND throttle. So I've got also another control over exposure with that as well. And I think it looks pretty cool as a setup. I mean, yeah, it is ridiculous, a tiny camera and a big lens like this, but actually in terms of balancing, and even the fact that this doesn't have, obviously cine lens doesn't have stabilization, but the stabilization in the S9 works really well, even with a lens like this. So I've been enjoying using this setup. So yeah, I wanted to share it with you guys before we ended the video. But yeah, let's cut to some sample footage and then I'll wrap up with a conclusion. That is it from me and the LUMIX S9. I've had a really good time with this camera and I wasn't anticipating that I would, because initially I didn't think that this would be a camera for someone in my position who shoots on a lot more high-end gear. But there's some things that I've really enjoyed. I love how simple it is to share your content. The fact that you can have MP4 Lite, that means you get quality video, 10-bit video that you can share straight to your phone and then post or edit and then post for social media. I think that for me is one of my favorite features. I'm also really enjoying how this really is the first time that we're seeing the full potential of RealTIME LUT in the camera, because it has an ecosystem now with LUMIX LAB. The fact that we can now create and edit LUTs and share them between our phone and our camera, and even with other creators through the ecosystem that they're building with LUMIX LAB, I think that's a really nice touch that we haven't quite seen the potential of yet, but I'm sure we will down the line. What else is there to say? We already knew that the sensor in this could produce amazing stills because it shares the sensor with the LUMIX S9 II, which is an incredible camera just for photography. So it has that already under the belt. It was what this camera can do in terms of creating social content on the fly in the most simple way possible. This camera helps do that, and I think if that's what you're trying to do, if that's a problem you're trying to solve, if you're looking for better quality than your smartphone, if you're a solo creator, if you're someone who has a small business and you need to make content about the products that you make, if you're an agency and you're running events and you want to be able to create great BTS of the setups, that kind of thing, I think this is a camera that will really shine in those areas. Whereas if you want something a little more high-end, something that can record unlimited video, then yeah, this isn't the camera for you. This is more for social clips, sharing on the fly, getting connected with your mobile phone and getting creative with things like RealTIME LUT. And really, if you're just looking for something that allows you to step into the world of interchangeable lenses with a full frame sensor which delivers beautiful quality in all lighting conditions, the LUMIX S9 is definitely a camera you should keep up in your considerations. Anyway, that's just my thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. We look forward to hearing from you and we'll see you in the next one.